The Gallo Repertory Company's theater season is on hold for now, but we are producing a series of virtual theater productions where our talented actors record their lines separate from the other actors in front of a green screen. The individual video recordings are then edited together with music, sound effects, and special effects in an attempt to give the impression that the actors are on stage together. The results are not perfect, but we hope you enjoy our efforts.
Hello, and welcome back to the fourth installment of the Gallo Repertory Company's virtual theater series. I'm Jim Johnson, your host. All About Eve is a classic American film based on a short story by Mary Orr titled The Wisdom of Eve. Orr based her story on an incident recounted by an actor's friend who told her that she had welcomed a young female assistant into her life, only to have the young girl attempt to sabotage her career and personal relationships. The betrayed actress fired her assistant and told Orr how angry she was. After the story was published, director Joseph Mankiewicz convinced studio head Darryl Zanuck that the story had film potential, and thus was born one of the greatest films of all time, All About Eve. The story follows Margot Channing, a highly regarded but aging Broadway star, and Eve Harrington, an ambitious young fan who maneuvers herself into Channing's life, ultimately threatening Channing's career and her personal relationships. The two roles were memorably played by Bette Davis and Anne Baxter. The film was praised by critics and received 14 Academy Award nominations and won 6, including Best Picture. Today it is widely considered one of the greatest films of all time. It was one of the first films selected for the preservation in the United States Library of Congress National Film Registry. Our virtual theater adaptation is based on the 1951 Lux Radio Theater show script. And now, All About Eve. And remember, fasten your seatbelts. It's gonna be a bumpy night.
Yes, this is Eve's hour. Beautiful, radiant, poised. She's about to make the speech of her acceptance. The hall rings with applause and bravos. Everyone is looking at Eve, all except Karen Richards. I wonder what Karen Richards is thinking about.
Eve Harrington. It seems a lifetime ago. That rainy night in October, I hurried down the alley to the stage door, but where was she? Strange. I had become so accustomed to seeing her night after night, I found myself looking for a girl I'd never spoken to.
Mrs. Richards?
Oh, there you are. Well, it seemed odd, suddenly you're not being here. After all, 6 nights a week watching Margot Channing enter and leave a theater.
Oh, I hope you don't mind my not speaking to you. It took every bit of courage I could raise.
To speak to a playwright's wife? I'm the lowest form of celebrity.
You're Margot Channing's best friend. You and your husband are always with her.
Tell me, what do you do in between the time Margot goes to the theater and comes out? Just huddle and wait?
Oh, no, I see the play.
See the play? You mean you've seen every performance?
Yes.
Well, apart from everything else, don't you find it expensive?
Standing room doesn't cost much. I manage.
Well, you're coming with me, young lady. I'm going to take you to Margot.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. She's got to meet you.
Oh, no, I'd be imposing on her. I'd be just another tongue-tied, gushing fan.
There isn't another like you. There couldn't be. Oh, by the way, what's your name?
Eve. Eve Harrington.
Margot was in her dressing room. Lloyd, my husband, was with her.
Morning, Karen. Margot's just been interviewed by a lady reporter from the South.
Where's my cold cream? Lloyd, honey, be a playwright with guts. Write me a nice, normal woman who just shoots her husband.
I find these wisecracks increasingly less funny, Margot. Edgton Wood happens to be a fine and distinguished play.
That's my loyal little woman.
Relax, kid. It's just me and my big mouth.
Well, it's just that you get me so mad sometimes. Of all the women in the world with nothing to complain about.
Ain't it the truth?
Yes, it is. You're talented, famous, wealthy, people waiting around for you night after night just to see you, even in the rain.
Autograph fiends, little beasts.
They're your fans, your audience.
They're nobody's audience. They never see a play or a movie even. They're never indoors long enough.
Well, there's one indoors right now. I've brought her back to see you.
You've what?
She's just outside the door.
Give her the old heave-ho.
You can't put her out, Margot. She worships you. You must have spotted her by now. She's always there.
Oh, I know. The mousy one with a trench coat and a funny hat.
Yes, come in. Margot, this is Eve Harrington.
How do you do, my dear?
Hello, Miss Channing.
My husband.
Hello, Miss Harrington.
How do you do, Mr. Richards?
I was just telling Margot and Lloyd about how often you've seen the play.
Every performance.
Well, then I am safe in assuming you like it?
I'd like anything Miss Channing played in.
Would you really? How sweet.
Your new play is for Miss Channing too, isn't it?
Well, how did you hear about it?
There was an item in Addison DeWitt's column. I like the title, Footsteps on the Ceiling.
Let's get back to this one. Every performance? Why?
Yes, there are other plays.
Well, not with you in them. Not by Mr. Richard.
But you must have friends, a home, a family.
No,
Tell us about it, Eve.
if I only knew how.
Try?
Well, it started with the play before this one.
Remembrance. Did you see it here in New York?
San Francisco, the most important night of my life until now. I found myself going the next night, and the next, and the next. And when the show went east, I went east.
Eve, why don't you start at the beginning?
It couldn't possibly interest you.
Please.
Well, I guess it started back home, Wisconsin. It was just Mom, Dad, and me. Farmers were poor in those days, so I quit school and became a secretary in a brewery. It wasn't much fun, but it helped at home. And there was this little theater group there, like a drop of rain in the desert. That's where I met Eddie. We played Lilium 3 times. Oh, I was awful. When the war came, we got married. Eddie was in the Air Force, and they sent him to the South Pacific. Then a letter arrived, and Eddie had a leave coming up, and I went to San Francisco to meet him, but Eddie wasn't there. Just a telegram saying Eddie wasn't coming home at all. That Eddie was dead. I found a job, and his insurance helped, and there were theaters in San Francisco. And then one night, Margot Channing came to play in Remembrance. And, well, here I am.
For your information, Margot, my plane takes off in 47 minutes. And how do I find you? Not ready yet and looking like a junkyard.
Oh, thank you so much.
This...
The airlines have clocks even if you haven't. I start shooting a week from Monday.
Bill.
I'm a junkyard.
Bill, this is Eve Harrington.
Hi. My wonderful junkyard. The mystery and dreams you find in a junkyard. Oh, hello. What's your name?
Eve Harrington.
You've already met.
Huh? Where?
Right here, a minute ago. Eve, you're not going, are you?
Oh, I think I better. Well, I can hardly find words to say how it's been. Thank you.
No, stick around. Tell you what, we'll put Stanislavski on his plane, you and I, and then we'll go somewhere and talk.
Well, if I'm not in the way.
I'll shower and dress. I won't be a minute.
Yes, Bill was going to Hollywood to direct a picture. I can't remember why Lloyd and I couldn't go to the airport with him, but I do remember that as we left, Eve started talking to Bill.
So you're going to Hollywood, Mr. Sampson?
Just for one picture. Why?
I just wondered
Just wondered what?
why you'd want to go out there. I mean, when a man's the best and most successful young director in the theater?
The theater, the theater. What book of rules says the theater exists only in New York? Listen, Junior, and learn. You want to know what the theater is? A flea circus. Also, opera, rodeos, carnivals, ballets, Indian tribal dances, Punch and Judy, a one-man band. Wherever there's magic and make-believe and an audience, there's theater. From Donald Duck to Eleanor Aduza, all theater. You don't understand them all, you don't like them all, why should you? The theater's for everybody, you included, but not exclusively. So don't approve or disapprove. It may not be your theater, but it's theater for somebody somewhere.
I just asked a simple question.
And I shot my mouth off. Nothing personal, Junior. Margot, I'm leaving here in exactly 3 seconds.
So am I when I find my coat. Eve, where are you going?
Oh, you don't really want me tagging along.
Don't be silly. This way. It's quicker if we cut across the stage. That same night, we sent for Eve's things, her few pitiful possessions. She moved into the little guest room. Eve became my sister, lawyer, mother, friend, psychiatrist, and cop. Her quiet efficiency, her constant anticipation of my wishes. I loved it. Yes, the honeymoon was on. Early one morning, the telephone rang. I was half groggy with sleep. The operator made no sense to me at all. Hello? Where?
We are ready with your call to Beverly Hills, California.
What call?
We are ready with the call you placed for 12 midnight California time to Mr. William Sampson in Beverly Hills. Go ahead, please.
Margot, what a wonderful surprise. What a thoughtful, ever-loving thing to do.
Bill, have I gone crazy?
Then you're crazy.
When are you coming back?
Oh, in a week. Well, I'm waiting. When are you going to say it?
Oh, Bill, you know how much I do, but over a phone? Now really, that's kid stuff.
Kid stuff or not, it doesn't happen every day. If you won't say it, then can you sing it?
Sing it?
Sure, like the Western Union boys used to do.
Bill, it's your birthday.
And who remembered it? Who was there on the dot at 12 midnight?
Happy birthday, darling.
The reading couldn't have been better. But you said it. Hey, I get a party, don't I?
Well, of course. Happy birthday and welcome home. So who'll I ask?
It's no secret. I know all about the party. Eve wrote me.
Eve. She did.
Sure she did. She hasn't missed a week since I left. But you know all about that. You probably tell her what to write. Tell me, how is Eve, okay?
Okay.
I love you.
I'll check with Eve. I love you too. Good night. I thought a lot about that phone call. Good morning, Eve.
I'm going downtown, Miss Channing. Is there anything else you've thought of?
Well, there's that script to take back to the guild.
I've got it.
And those checks for the tax man.
Right in this envelope?
Well, it seems I can't think of a thing you haven't thought of.
It's my job, Miss Channing.
Eve, by any chance, did you place a call for me to Bill Sampson for midnight California time?
Oh, golly, I forgot to tell you.
Yes, dear. You forgot all about it.
Well, I was sure you'd want to, of course, being his birthday, and you've been so busy.
Was very thoughtful of you, Eve.
It was Mr. Sampson's birthday. I couldn't forget that. You'd never forgive me. As a matter of fact, I sent him a telegram myself.
Bill's welcome home birthday party. A night that would go down in history. Like the Chicago Fire or the massacre of the Huguenots. Even before it started, I could smell disaster in the air. When I went downstairs, I was surprised to find that Bill had already arrived.
Well, looks like we're going to have a very fancy party.
I thought you were going to be late. How long have you been here?
Just a few minutes. I ran into Eve. She seemed so interested in Hollywood.
Oh, she's a girl of so many interests.
It's a pretty rare quality these days.
She's a girl of so many rare qualities.
So she seems.
So you've pointed out. So often. So many qualities. And so young. So young and so fair. I don't think that's funny.
Of course it's funny. Whipping yourself into a jealous froth because I spent 10 minutes with a stage-struck kid?
A stage-struck kid. She's a young lady of qualities. And I'll have you know I am fed up with both the young lady and her qualities. Studying me as if I were a blueprint or a play. How I walk, act, talk, think, eat, sleep. It so happens there are particular aspects of my life to which I would like to maintain sole and exclusive rights and privileges.
For instance, what?
For instance, you.
Darling, this is my cue to take you in my arms and reassure you. But I'm not going to do it. I'm too mad.
Guilty?
Mad. Darling, there are certain characteristics for which you are famous on stage and off. I love you for some of them and in spite of others. You've got to keep your teeth sharp, all right, but you will not sharpen them on me or on Eve.
What about her teeth? What about her fangs?
She hasn't cut them yet, and you know it. Eve Harrington has never indicated anything to me but her adoration for you and her happiness at our being in love. And to intimate anything else spells a paranoid insecurity that you should be ashamed of.
Cut. Print it. And what happens in the next reel? Do I get dragged off screaming to the snake pit?
Excuse me, Miss Channing.
Oh. Yes, Eve?
The hors d'oeuvres are here. Is there anything else I can do?
Well, yes. Thank you. I'd like another martini, please. Very dry. And very double.
Hello, everyone. We let ourselves in like common thieves.
Oh, you and Karen can come take whatever you want. Except for the gin, of course.
May I have your coat?
Don't bother. I can put it away myself.
Please.
Thank you, Eve.
I like that girl. The quality of quiet graciousness.
Among so many quiet qualities.
Margot, nothing you've ever done has made me as happy as you're taking Eve in.
Oh, I'm so happy. You're happy.
The general atmosphere is very Macbeth-ish. What has or is about to happen?
What is he talking about?
Macbeth.
We know you. We've seen you before like this. Is it over or just beginning?
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
And it was. As the night plowed on, Margot managed to carve up Bill's cake, several producers, the piano player, and an innocent fern that just happened to be in a line of unfriendly fire. Finally, I had had enough and told Lloyd it was time to go. And he told Margot.
Well, I've been looking for you, Margot. Karen and I have to run along. It's been a swell party.
So where's Karen, Lloyd? Upstairs?
Yes, getting her coat, I think.
How's the new play coming along?
Footsteps on the ceiling? All right, I guess.
And the girl character, Cora, is she still 20?
20-ish. It's not important.
Well, don't you think it's about time it became important?
Margot, you haven't got any age.
Margot Channing is ageless. Spoken like a press agent, Lloyd. I'm not 20-ish. I'm not 30-ish. 3 months ago, I was 40 years old. 4-0. That slipped out. I hadn't quite made up my mind if I was going to admit it.
You've had another fight with Bill, am I right?
Bill's 32. He looks 32. He looked at 5 years ago, and he's going to look at 20 years from now. I hate men. Oh, don't worry, Lloyd. I'll play your play. I'll wear rompers and come in rolling a hoop. Oh, now go get out of here. Go find your wife.
So nice of you to come upstairs with me, Eve.
Oh, I just wanted to be sure you'd find your coat, Mrs. Richards.
Tell me, Eve, how are things going? Are you happy?
There should be a new word for happiness. Being here with Miss Channing, she's been so wonderful, done so much for me.
You've done your share too, Eve. So, good night.
Mrs. Richards?
Karen.
Karen. Oh, isn't it awful? I'm about to ask you for another favor after all you've done already.
Oh, that's nonsense.
It's just that, well, Miss Channing's affairs are in such good shape, and now her understudy is going to have a baby, and they'd have to replace her.
You want to be Margot's new understudy.
I don't let myself even think about it, but I do know the parts so well, and every bit of the staging. Oh, but suppose I'd have to go on one night to an audience that came to see Margot Channing. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that. Margot just doesn't miss performances. If she can walk, crawl, or roll, she plays.
The show must go on.
No, dear. Margot must go on. As a matter of fact, I see no reason why you shouldn't be her understudy.
Do you think Miss Channing would approve?
I think she'd cheer.
But Mr. Richards and Mr. Sampson...
Stop worrying. They'll do as they're told.
I seem to be forever thanking you for something, don't I? Good night, Karen.
Good night, dear. So Eve became Margot's understudy. Naturally, I assumed that Margot approved. One afternoon, Margot went to the theater. Someone else was leaving the cast, and Margot consented to help with an audition. A friend of Edison DeWitt's, Miss Caswell, was trying out for the part.
Margot, how nice to see you.
Well, why aren't you in the theater, Addison? At the side of your protégée, lending her moral support.
Oh, but I did. The audition, however, is over.
Over? Well, it can't be. I've come here to read with Miss Caswell.
Well, the audition was called for 2:30 and is now nearly 4.
Is it really? Well, who read with Miss Caswell? Bill? Lloyd? Well, who then?
Naturally enough, your understudy.
Well, I consider it highly unnatural to allow a girl in an advanced state of pregnancy to...
I refer to your new and unpregnant understudy, Miss Eve Harrington.
Eve? My understudy?
Well, didn't you know?
Well, yes, of course I knew.
It just slipped your mind.
I take it she read well?
Margot, as you know, I have lived in the theater as a Trappist monk lives in his faith. And once in a great while, I experienced that moment of revelation for which all true believers wait and pray. You were one. Eve Harrington is another. It wasn't a reading. It was something made of fire and music. Brilliant. Vivid. Unforgettable.
How nice.
In time, she'll be what you are.
A mass of fire and music. That's me. An old kazoo and some sparklers. Tell me, was Bill swept away too, or were you too full of revelation to notice?
Bill didn't say, but Lloyd was beside himself. He listened to his play as if someone else had written it, he said. It sounded so fresh, so new, so full of meaning.
How nice for Lloyd. And how nice for Eve. How nice for everybody.
Eve was incredibly modest. She insisted that Lloyd felt as he did, only because she read the lines exactly as he had written them.
The implication being that I have not been reading them as written?
To the best of my recollection, neither your name nor your performance entered the conversation. May I give you a lift somewhere?
No. No, thank you, Addison. I'll just run on in so they know I really did come after all. I really must start wearing a watch. I'm terribly sorry I'm late. Lunch went long and I couldn't find a cab. Hello, Bill? Hello, Lloyd? Hello, Eve?
Hello, Miss Channing.
Shall we start?
It's all over, Margot.
What's all over?
The audition. Eve read with Miss Caswell.
Eve? Well, how enchanting. Wherever did you get the idea of letting Eve read?
Well, she's your understudy.
Eve? My understudy? Why, I had no idea.
I thought you knew. She was put on over a week ago.
Miss Channing, I can't tell you how glad I am that you arrived so late.
Really, Eve? Why?
Oh, if you'd been here to begin with, I never would have dared to read at all. I couldn't have.
What a pity. All that fire and music going to waste.
What fire and music?
You wouldn't understand.
Oh, I was dreadful, Miss Channing, believe me.
Oh, I'm sure you underestimate yourself, Eve. You always do.
You'd have been proud of her, Margot. Eve was a revelation.
You too, Lloyd?
What do you mean by that?
I mean that, among other things, it must have been a revelation to have your 24-year-old character played by a 24-year-old actress. Also, it must have sounded so new and fresh to you, so exciting to have your lines read to you just as you wrote them. So full of meaning, fire, and music.
You've been talking to that venomous fishwife, Addison DeWitt.
And in this case, apparently as trustworthy as the World Almanac.
You knew when you came in that the audition was over, that Eve was your understudy, playing that childish game of cat and mouse.
No mouse. Never mouse. If anything, rat.
You have a genius for making a barroom brawl out of a perfectly innocent misunderstanding, at most.
Perfectly innocent? Perfectly innocent men have been hanged for less. I am lied to, attacked behind my back, accused of reading your silly dialogue inaccurately as if it were the Holy Gospel.
I never said it was.
Well, you can change this star anytime you want for a new, fresh, exciting one, fully equipped with fire and music. Anytime you want, starting with tonight's performance.
I shall never understand the weird process by which a body and voice suddenly fancies itself a mind. Just when exactly does an actress decide they're her words she's saying and her thoughts she's expressing?
Oh, usually at the point when she has to rewrite and rethink them to keep the audience from leaving the theater.
It's about time that the piano realized it has not written the concerto.
And you, Bill? I take it you are the Beethoven who plays his concerto on the piano. Where is Miss Princess Fire and Ice?
Who?
The kid. Junior.
Gone.
I must have frightened her away.
I wouldn't be surprised. Sometimes you frighten me.
Oh, I'm nothing but a body and a voice. No mind.
What a body. What a voice. Now calm down. The gong rang. The fight's over.
I will not calm down,
Don't calm down.
and I will not be plotted against.
Here we go.
Such nonsense. What do you all take me for, little Nell from the country? Been my understudy for over a week without my knowing. Shows up for an audition when everyone knew I'd be here and gives a performance. Out of nowhere, she just gives a performance.
You've been all through that with Lloyd.
Full of fire and music and whatnot. Carefully rehearsed, I have no doubt. Full of those Bill Sampson touches.
I am sick and tired of these paranoid outbursts. I didn't even know Eve Harrington was your understudy until 2:30 this afternoon.
Tell that to Dr. Freud along with the rest of it.
No, I'll tell you. For the last time, I'll tell it to you. I love you. You're a beautiful and intelligent woman.
A body and a voice.
And a great actress. You have every reason for happiness.
Except happiness.
Every reason. But due to some strange, uncontrollable, unconscious drive, you permit the slightest actions of a kid, like Eve, to turn you into a hysterical, screaming harpy. Now, once and for all, stop it.
Well, it's obvious you're not a woman.
I've been aware of that for some time.
Well, I am.
I'll say. Now, come on, Margot. Let's get out of here. I'll buy you a drink.
I'll admit I have seen better days. But I'm still not to be had for the price of a cocktail. Like some salted peanut.
Margot, let's make peace.
The terms are too high, Bill. Unconditional surrender.
Just being happy? Just stopping all this nonsense about Eve and me?
It's not nonsense. I wish it were.
I told you before this was going to be my last try, and I meant it. I can't think of anything else to do. I wish I could. Goodbye, Margot.
Bill! Bill, where are you going? To find Eve.
That suddenly makes the whole thing believable.
Bill! Bill!
Frankly, Lloyd, I don't understand a word you're saying.
Not only was Margot 2 hours late, but that childish, heavy-handed routine about not knowing Eve was her understudy.
It's just possible she didn't know.
Of course she knew. Addison told her. Now someone's got to stop Margot. Who's going to do it? Who's going to give her that boot in the rear she needs and deserves?
It's going to be a very cozy weekend.
What is?
We're driving out to the country tomorrow night. Margot, you and I.
Well, we've spent weekends before with nobody talking. Just be sure to lock up all the blunt instruments and throwable objects.
Lloyd was right, of course, about Margot. That boot coming to her? Heaven knows she had one coming. But how? How to do it? And then it came to me, my big idea. After all, it was no more than a perfectly harmless joke, which Margot herself would be the first to enjoy. No reason why she shouldn't be told about it in time. My big idea required a telephone call. Hello? Will you call Miss Eve Harrington to the phone, please? It was a cold weekend we spent in the country. Somehow we staggered through. Late Monday afternoon, my big idea went into action. Its purpose was to make Margot miss her performance so that Eve would have to take her place. All I did was drain the gas tank of her car. My timing was perfect. Margot missed her train, and we sat there on the highway, the two of us, while Lloyd, cursing softly, went down the road in search of gasoline.
Would you like a cigarette, Karen?
No. Thanks, dear.
I haven't been very pleasant this weekend.
Well, we've all seemed a little tense lately.
More than any two people I know. I want you and Lloyd to be not angry with me.
How could we? You're Margot, just Margot.
And what is that besides something spelled out in light bulbs, I mean? Infants behave the way I do, you know, when they feel unwanted or insecure or unloved.
What about Bill? He is in love with you.
More than anything in this world, I love Bill. I want him to love me, but me, not Margot Channing. And if I can't tell them apart, how can he? And Karen, about Eve, I've acted pretty disgracefully toward her too. Well, at best, let's say I've been oversensitive.
Well,
The fact that she's so young and feminine and helpless, all the things I want to be for Bill.
I want you to know how sorry I am about this.
About what?
Getting stuck like this. I can't tell you how sorry I am.
Oh, don't give it another thought. One of Destiny's merry pranks. After all, you didn't personally drain the gasoline out of the tank.
Oh.
I'm Addison DeWitt. It is now my turn to tell you all about Eve. That night, with Margot marooned in the country, Eve Harrington took her place on the stage. Her performance was magnificent. But one thing puzzled me. Why was I invited to that particular performance? A performance about which the management knew nothing until they were forced to bring up the curtain at 9 o'clock, when Margot failed to appear. Coincidence? Also every indication of intrigue, skullduggery, and fraud. Afterwards, I went backstage. Her dressing room door was closed, but I overheard a rather interesting conversation between Eve and Bill Sampson.
You can be very proud of yourself, Eve. That was a wonderful job you did tonight. I'll admit I had my doubts.
Oh, you shouldn't have had any doubts.
You're right. With work and patience, you'll be a good actress, if that's what you want to be.
Is that what you want me to be?
I'm talking about you and what you want.
So am I.
What have I got to do with it?
Everything.
The names I've been called, but never Svengali. Good night.
Well, don't run away, Bill.
From what would I be running?
You're always after the truth on the stage. What about off?
I'm for it.
Then face it, I have. Ever since that first night, here, in this dressing room.
When I told you what every young actress should know?
When you told me that whatever I became, it would be because of you.
Your makeup's a little heavy.
And for you.
You're quite a girl.
You think?
I'm in love with Margot. Hadn't you heard?
You hear all kinds of things.
I'm only human, rumors to the contrary, and I'm as curious as the next man.
Find out.
Only thing, what I go after, I want to go after. I don't want it to come after me. Don't cry. Just score it as an incomplete forward pass.
I waited a reasonable amount of time for her tears to dry, and then I too had a chat with Eve. I wanted to write a column about her, and there were many questions to ask.
So kind of you to stop by, Mr. DeWitt. I'm so glad you liked me tonight. But it's still Miss Channing's performance. I'm just a carbon copy you read when you can't find the original.
I think the time has come to shed some of your modesty. It is just as false to not blow your horn at all as it is to blow it too loudly.
One pretty good performance by an understudy? I'll be forgotten tomorrow.
It needn't be.
Why not? I'm less than nobody.
I am somebody.
You certainly are.
After you change, can we have supper?
Oh, I'd love to. Or should I pretend I'm busy?
Let's have a minimum of pretending. I shall want to do a column about you.
Oh, I'm not enough for a paragraph.
Perhaps more than one. There's so much I want to know. I've heard your story in bits and pieces. Your home in Wisconsin, your tragic marriage, your fanatical attachment to Margot. It started in San Francisco, didn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Which theater was it in San Francisco? Was it the Schubert?
Yes, the Schubert.
A fine old theater, the Schubert. Full of tradition, untouched by the earthquake. Fire. By the way, what was your husband's name?
Eddie.
Eddie what?
Really, Mr. DeWitt, if I'm ever going to change, I'll only be a minute.
Where would you like to go, Eve? We must make this a special night.
Oh, you take charge.
I believe I will.
Stop saying you can't believe it, Karen. It's right here in print, isn't it?
I still can't believe that Eve would.
By Addison DeWitt. Listen to this. Miss Harrington had much to tell about the lamentable practices of our theater, of permitting mature actresses to continue playing roles requiring a youth and vigor of which they retain but a dim memory.
I still can't believe that Eve would.
Oh, it gets better. About the understandable reluctance on the part of our entrenched first ladies of the stage to encourage younger actresses. About Miss Harrington's own long, unsupported struggle for opportunity.
Eve couldn't have said anything like that.
What gets me is how all of those papers happen to catch that particular performance.
Lloyd says it's a publicity release.
The little witch must have had runners out, snatching critics out from wherever they hole up. Well, she won't get away with it. Nor will Addison DeWitt and his poison pin. I will personally...
I came as soon as I read that piece of filth.
Oh, Bill, thank heavens you're here.
Bill! Oh, Bill!
Bill's here, baby. Everything's all right now.
Darling!
I guess at this point I'm what the French would call de trop.
Maybe just a little around the edges.
That night, Eve and I were having supper in the cub room of the Store Club, when in walked Margot, Bill, Lloyd, and Karen. They seemed unusually happy and gay.
Simply this. Margot and I are getting married.
Glory! Hallelujah!
Margot, when are you going to do it?
We meet at City Hall tomorrow morning at 10.
City Hall? That's for prize fighters and reporters.
It's only for the license. There's a 3-day wait for blood tests.
Oh, I'll marry you if it turns out you have no blood at all.
What are you going to wear?
Oh, something simple. A fur coat over a nightgown.
The point is, we want you two beside us as our nearest and dearest friends.
Excuse me, Mrs. Richards?
Yes? Waiter?
This note is for you. Miss Harrington sent it.
Miss Harrington? Here, Margot, you read it.
Please forgive me for butting in, but it's most important that I speak to you. Please, it's underlined, meet me in the ladies' room. Eve.
I understand she's now the understudy in there.
Maybe Eve just wants to apologize.
But what could she say?
Go on, find out.
Oh, Karen, in all the years of our friendship, I've never let you go to the ladies' room alone. But now I must. I'm busting to know what goes on in that feverish little brain of hers.
All right.
I was wondering whether you'd come at all. Thank you. I wanted to talk to you about Mr. DeWitt's column.
Do you expect me to believe that you didn't say any of these things, that they were all Addison?
All I know is I found myself trying to answer his questions, trying to say what I mean, but somehow the words changed. They became his words, and suddenly I wasn't saying what I mean, but what he means. I just wanted you to know the responsibility is mine. and the disgrace.
Let's not get overly dramatic.
You really have a low opinion of me, don't you? You'll be glad to know that I've been told off in no uncertain terms all over town.
Eve, don't cry. After all, you still have a powerful friend in Addison DeWitt.
He's not my friend. You were my friends. I'll never get over it. Never.
Yes, you will. You're very young and very talented, and believe it or not, if there's anything I can do.
Yes, there is something.
I think I know.
Something most important you can do.
You want to play the lead in Lloyd's new play. You want me to tell Lloyd I think you should play it.
If you told him so, he'd give me the part. He said he would.
After all you've said, don't you know that part was written for Margot?
It could have been 15 years ago. It's my part now. You've got to tell Lloyd it's for me.
I don't think anything in the world could make me say that.
Addison wants me to play.
Over my dead body!
That won't be necessary. Addison knows how Margot happened to miss that performance. How I happened to know she'd miss it in time to call him and notify every paper in town. Oh, you'd better sit down. You look a bit wobbly. If I play Cora, Addison will never tell what happened, in or out of print. A simple exchange of favors. And I'm so happy I could do something for you at long last. Your friendship with Margot, your deep, close friendship. Well, what would happen to it, do you think, if she knew the cheap trick you'd played on her for my benefit? It would be so much easier on everyone concerned if I were to play Cora. Oh, it's so much better theater, too.
All that? Just for a part in a play?
Oh, I'd do so much more for a part that good. Excuse me, Karen. Addison's waiting for me.
Only coffee, Eve? I'm not surprised. After all that humble pie,
Oh, nothing of the kind. Karen and I had a nice talk.
including a casual reference to the part of Cora and your hopes of playing it.
I discussed it very openly.
She mentioned, of course, that Margot expects to play the part.
Oddly enough, she didn't say a word about Margot.
You know, Eve, sometimes I think you keep things from me.
Don't think that's funny.
It wasn't meant to be.
I confide in you and rely on you more than anyone I've ever known. To say a thing like that now, without any reason, when I need you more than ever?
I hope you mean what you say, Eve. I intend to hold you to it. We have a great deal in common, it seems to me.
Well, what happened?
Nothing much. She apologized.
With tears.
With tears.
Very classy stuff. Lots of technique. Groom,
Huh?
may I have a wedding present, please?
What would you like? Texas?
I want everybody to shut up about Eve. Just shut up. That's all I want. Never have I been so happy. Because I forgive Eve. I forgive Eve because she's left good behind. The four of us here together. It's Eve's fault. I forgive her. And Bill, especially Bill. I forgive her for Bill. No, she's a louse.
Never try to outguess Margot.
Correct. And Lloyd, I don't want to play Cora.
What?
Now wait a minute, Karen. You're always so touchy about his plays. It isn't the part. It's a great part. But not for me anymore. Not for a four-square, upright, downright, forthright married lady.
What's your being married got to do with it?
Well, it means I've finally got a life to live. I don't have to play parts I'm too old for because I've got, nothing else to do with my life. I'll make it up to you, Lloyd. Believe me, I'll I'll tour a year with this one, anything. Only you do understand, don't you, Lloyd?
What's so funny?
No, nothing. Everything. Everything's so funny.
In due time, they will wed, Margot and Bill. Also in due time, rehearsals started for the new play, starring Eve Harrington. Finally, the play was ready for its out-of-town opening in New Haven. That afternoon, I saw Eve at her hotel.
Isn't it strange, Addison? I thought I'd be panic-stricken. Instead, I can't wait for tonight to come. To come and go.
Are you that sure of tomorrow?
Aren't you?
Frankly, yes.
It'll bring to me everything I've ever wanted. The end of an old road and the beginning of a new one.
All paved with diamonds and gold.
You know me better than that.
Paved with what then?
Stars. What time is it?
Almost 4.
Plenty of time for a nice long nap.
You could sleep too, couldn't you?
Why not?
The mark of a true killer. Sleep tight, rest easy, and come out fighting.
Why'd you call me a killer?
Did I say killer? I meant champion. I get my boxing terms mixed.
And listen, Addison, there'll be a party here tonight. You'll come, won't you? We're having everyone up after the performance.
We're?
Lloyd and I.
I find it odd that Karen isn't here for the opening, don't you? She has always been so fanatically devoted to Lloyd.
Addison, just a few minutes ago I said this would be a night to remember. I didn't mean just the theater.
What else?
Lloyd Richards. He's going to leave Karen. We're going to be married.
So that's it. Lloyd. Still just the theater, after all.
It's nothing of the kind. Lloyd loves me. I love him.
I know nothing about Lloyd and his loves. I leave those to Louisa May Alcott. But I do know you.
I'm in love with Lloyd, Addison. Won't it just be perfect? Lloyd and I. There's no telling how far we can go. He'll write great plays for me. I'll make them great. You're the only one I've told. The only one who knows except Lloyd and me.
And Karen?
She doesn't know.
She knows enough not to be here.
But not all of it. Not that Lloyd and I are going to be married. Well, say something, anything. Congratulations, Skull, good work, Eve.
What do you take me for? Is it possible, even conceivable, that you've confused me for that gang of backward children you've been playing tricks on? That you have the same contempt for me that you have for them?
I'm sure you mean something by that, Addison, but I don't know what.
Look closely, Eve. It's time that you did. I am Addison DeWitt. I am nobody's fool, least of all yours.
I never intended you to be.
Yes, you did. You still do.
I still don't know what you're getting at.
You know it as well as I do. That while Lloyd may leave Karen, he will not leave Karen for you.
What do you mean by that?
More plainly and more distinctly, you will not marry Lloyd Richards, or anyone else for that matter, because I will not permit it.
Will not permit it? That sounds medieval. Something out of an old melodrama.
So does the history of the world for the past 20 years. Frankly, I had hoped that you would somehow have known, have taken it for granted that you and I...
You and I?
Remember, as long as you live, never to laugh at me, at anything or anyone else, but never at me. To begin with, your name is not Eve Harrington. It is Gertrude Slazinski.
Get out!
It's true that you worked in a brewery, but life in the brewery was apparently not as dull as you pictured it. As a matter of fact, it got less and less dull until your boss's wife had you followed by detectives.
She never proved anything. Not a thing.
But the $500 you got to get out of town brought you straight to New York, didn't it?
She was a liar! A liar!
There was no Eddie, no pilot, and you've never been married. San Francisco has no Schubert Theater. You've never been to San Francisco. That was a stupid lie, easy to expose, not worthy of you.
I had to get in, to meet Margot. I had to say something. Be somebody. Make her like me.
She did like you. She helped and trusted you. You paid her back by trying to take Bill away.
That's not true.
After you failed, you used my name and my column to blackmail Karen into getting the part of Cora. And you lied to me about it.
No.
I had lunch with Karen not 3 hours ago. As always with women who want to find things out, she told me more than she'd learned. That I should want you at all suddenly strikes me as the height of improbability. But that in itself is probably the reason you're an improbable person, Eve. And so am I. We have that in common. Also a contempt for humanity, an inability to love and be loved, insatiable ambition and talent. We deserve each other. Are you listening to me?
Yes, Addison.
And you realize, you agree, how completely you belong to me.
Yes, Addison.
Take your nap now, and good luck for tonight.
I won't go on tonight. I couldn't.
Couldn't go on? You'll give the performance of your life. And she gave the performance of her life. It was a night to remember that night. And that is why she's on the dais of the Sarah Siddons Awards this evening.
Honored members of the Sarah Siddons Society, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am an apprentice in the theater and have much to learn from all of you. I can say only that I regard this great honor not so much as an award for what I have achieved, but as a standard to hold against what I have yet to accomplish. The larger share belongs to my friends in the theater. In good conscience, I must give credit where credit is due. To my first friend in the theater, Karen, Mrs. Lloyd Richards. And it was Karen who first brought me to the great actress and great woman, Margot Channing. My director, who demanded always a little more than my talent could provide, Bill Sampson. How can I repay Lloyd Richards? Although I am going to Hollywood next week to make a film, do not think for a moment that I am leaving you. How could I? For my heart is here, in the theater. I'll be back to claim it, and soon. That is, if you want me back.
Mr. DeWitt.
Miss Caswell, nice to see you again.
Isn't she wonderful, Mr. DeWitt?
There's no one like Eve, Miss Caswell. No one in the world. Tell me, Miss Caswell, do you want someday to have an award like that of your own?
More than anything in the world.
Then you must ask Eve Harrington how to get one. Miss Harrington knows all about it.